even though it's sunny as hell, but
Okay,
that works a little bit better. Let me get you centered. There we go.
Come on, you can do it. Yeah, there we go. All right, we are officially live. Hooray! Hello, my howlers. This is Sako Tumi, also known as Cass Voit, and welcome to a particularly special edition of a Sako Tumi live stream. Black Lives Matter. I have a special guest today. This is Taye Del Val.
Hello.
Taye, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the internet?
Okay, I'm Taye Del Val, a YouTube creator, a cosplayer, an administrative assistant out here in California. Sako and I have known each other, God, over 20 years now, man.
At least.
Oh my God, like.
We're going on 30.
Oh my God, yeah. Children together we were.
Yep.
Children out in these streets. But yeah, that's me. Obviously, a very concerned Black woman.
Indeed. So I've been thinking about you a lot. Mm-hmm. I have been watching you struggle very much these past few weeks. And I wanted to hear what you had to say. Both, I mean, you've got it coming from multiple directions, being part Native and part Black and also woman, you know, like all of those things. So there's a lot of struggle. And every once in a while you school me in checking me in my privilege, basically. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that.
Done with love. Always done with love.
Always done with love.
Because I know you love me, and I know that it's not coming from a place of hate. I know it's not coming from a place of.
It's just sheer ignorance.
Yeah,
that's all. Yeah. So I appreciate that you school me in the ways of the Black female.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been hard because when this all started, when I was already feeling low before the catalyst that was George Floyd. And I think that was me dealing with my own health issues as far as I think I became anemic again. So I was already feeling low. And then being on social media, because we're in the middle of quarantine and my job isn't as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not, working from home. Hi, honey. Working from home, my job not needing me, as an assistant as much because we're not in office. So I have a lot of time to spend on my phone and just seeing constant coverage, people tweeting about it, people speaking about it. It really took a toll. Like I was catatonic that first weekend. Mm-hmm. I did nothing but lay in bed. I barely ate. I didn't groom myself at all. It's just the collective trauma of everything. Like it wasn't just this one thing. And I want people to realize that, this was happening 4 years ago with Mike Brown, with Eric Gardner, with, Philando Castile. Like
this is not a new problem.
Yeah. And it's just been building up and building up and building up. And I think it's weird to say it, but the blessing of being in quarantine means nobody can really hide. They have to listen. And I think that's why we're seeing the wave that we're seeing now. But it's scary for me because, as I'm sure you've seen on my Facebook page, they out here lynching men in where I live, Right. So like I just got an update from Amazon because I bought a stun gun. I bought pepper spray. I bought a personal alarm to blow somebody's ears out if they get too close to me. I bought, self-defense keychains because like somebody's going to have to work to take me out. And I lived in New York City for over a decade and never dreamed of buying one of those things. And you would think a woman in New York City who has to ride the subway, who goes out late at night, a lot of times by herself. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be common sense to get those things. But now it's just like,
Now it's a necessity.
Yeah, because it's in my backyard. Like, dude was found in front of Palmdale City Hall.
Wow.
I can drive there in 15 minutes. Like, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away from my place of business.
And City Hall, no less.
So, and the fact that they were just trying to write it off so quick, it'd be like, oh, it's a suicide. It's like, I don't know anybody who goes to a very public place to do this. And the fact that not far before that, another Black man in Victorville, which is 50 miles down the road, was found.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read about a Black man being found in Manhattan, in Manhattan Park in New York City. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
When we know what's happening. And, you know, on my YouTube channel after everything happened, like, I stopped posting for a while, but I posted a poem that I wrote called Scared to Exist, Scared to Simply Exist. And that's what I live with every day. You know, like, yes, I have moments of peace. You know, yesterday was Chris Evans' birthday, and I was just posting, you know, pictures of me and him, and that made me so happy. And
I appreciated that.
Yeah, because it was a break from everything, you know, just posting something that brings me so much joy, and seeing that.
Just for a minute.
Yeah,
you know?
Just seeing that on my timeline, seeing people react to it, and I even posted, like, I know you guys are getting sick of this, and everybody was like, no, more.
No, bring it. Yeah.
Please, more of this. Yeah. And it was just like, but, you know, today I wake up and it's like, no, I have to keep speaking out. But it's like, I kind of want to work from home until I get a car, because having to rely on Uber and Lyft, I don't know who's picking me up. You know, when I was searching Amazon for the pepper spray, I saw a 3-in-1. It was pepper spray, glass breaker, and a seatbelt cutter. Wow. I'm like,
all those three things together.
Yeah.
That is a huge statement.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, I really like my company is willing to work with us as far as, you know, COVID. If you're not comfortable coming back to work yet, then please continue to work from home. But I really want to talk to my bosses, be like, hey, I'm a Black woman without my own vehicle. It might seem paranoid, but I would really like to continue working from home until I'm able to purchase a vehicle of my own. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know who's picking me up. I don't know who could be hiding. And, you know, even though Uber has, you know, the safety guards, like, you can send this to whoever, and, you know, but
sure.
Let's be honest about it. Like, I'm not only Black, I'm a woman, and we don't get press coverage.
It's true.
You know, the FBI is investigating what happened to Breonna Taylor. They passed a law to ban
Louisville.
not warrants, but her murderers, and that's what they are. Murderers are still out there in those streets.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons a lot of Black people die very early. Like, I realized it as I was thinking about it, because my mother's birthday is next month. It's July 31st. Right. My mother died at 64. My grandmother died at 66. Mm-hmm. My uncle died in his late 60s. My biological mother died in her 50s. And it's because of the stress of being Black in America. Like, yes, we've made so much progress, but I still have to look over my shoulder to make sure that I'm not being harassed. I'm not being followed. You know, I have to, people think it's a line from Scandal, but it's the truth. It's like, we have to work twice as hard to get half of what they get. And it's like, I've been blessed in the fact that I haven't been so overtly, like, racially profiled. Like, I don't think I've ever been followed in a store. And that could be because I tend to keep multi-culti friends around me. So it's not just me by myself. And I rarely go shopping by myself.
Mm-hmm. I have to second this.
Yeah.
In that, so they are government sanctioned. Like, the idea that bros come before the neighbors, you know, like the freaking, for instance, right, the 75-year-old man that was filming them with his phone, they push him to the ground, his head cracks open on the asphalt, cops do nothing. There is video evidence of this happening all over the internet, right? Cops get away clean.
Yeah.
When they leave the courthouse, their fellow cops are below applauding. What the fuck are they applauding?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, the street is safe from 75-year-old men. Like,
yeah.
What are you celebrating?
And the first statement they put out was he tripped and fell.
He did not.
When we can clearly see it.
Yeah.
And then you have this poor soul in Atlanta who was sleeping in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And he is no longer on this earth. And I shared on Facebook, I shared that video that happened 30 minutes before, where he was just calmly talking. He was like, listen, I was tired. I didn't want to be on the road. I just pulled over to get some sleep. If I could just Uber home, if I could just walk home, you know.
If I could just.
And now he's gone.
I could just, yeah. And it turns into a woulda, coulda, shoulda sort of situation, right? So. And I think, and unfortunately, it's not a woulda, coulda decision. It's because not only do women struggle with this in the sense that of victim blaming, right? But you also get it because you're Black.
Yeah.
On top of it, right? So, like the dude who was sleeping in his car, like, what else could he have done? Like, seriously. That would have prevented his death. Like, he should have been safe. You
constantly have people who are like, well, if you just comply, and it's like, well, Breonna Taylor was sleeping.
Okay, so the whole thing about Breonna is that they had the wrong address.
Mm-hmm. They had the wrong address. They were looking for somebody who was already in police custody.
And they killed her.
Mm-hmm. Shot her 8 times, and then they just released like the incident report, and they were like, it was basically blank. So,
like her, and she was essential personnel and model citizen sort of situation,
and that is the thing that kills me. Is a lot of times people will bring up, like, they love to bring up any criminal records that people who are murdered by police have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but there are children who didn't do anything.
Trayvon Martin is a great example. He had Skittles, motherfucking Skittles.
Like you have, I think something came up in my Facebook memories of a little girl who was like maybe 5'6", 98 pounds. And they were like, she fits the description of a 6'2", 250-pound dude. So we're going to rough her up. Like, she's a baby. And people love to bring up it's like, you can be a model citizen. There are college graduates. We have video footage of journalists with their press passes being arrested on camera. We have, Jon Stewart told a great story about how in New York City, you had one of his crew who was a white dude and dressed like a homeless person was let through without no problems. But another person on his crew, a Black man who was dressed in a 3-piece suit, got all kinds of harassed while trying to get access to a building, and he showed them their credentials and like, no, we have to hold you. It's like, we can be the most upstanding citizens.
Did you see the undercover cop that ended up getting beat up by his peers?
Yeah.
Idiots. Undercover cop happens to be Black, and they cornered him and nailed him to the ground and beat him in the middle of the street.
It's like, I will never understand what we did other than exist to make people go, you deserve to die.
I don't get it. I don't have a frame of reference.
It literally makes no sense to me. And it's like the whole Drew Brees thing where he was asked about players kneeling, and he said, Oh, when I hear the national anthem, I think about my grandfathers who fought in wars. And I posted that on Facebook. I was like, did you think about the Black soldiers who fought in the American Revolution? Do you think about the soldiers that fight in all wars?
Yeah.
And still come home and treated as second-class citizens? Like, you didn't think about that at all. At all. You know, it's like there were regiments in, I think there's was it Glory with Denzel Washington, where it's like they recruited the slaves for the Civil War, and they're like, if you fight, you'll earn your freedom.
Yeah.
It's like, but they were still treated as 3/5 of a person. Like, what?
Yeah.
What did we do other than exist and freely give our labor and allow ourselves to be? What did we do? What did we do other than ask to be treated as humans? And that's why I go so hard for the others and try to learn so much about things that aren't taught in school. And that's another thing that's being brought up with all of the education that's taking place.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do not know history. A lot of people think the Tulsa Race Massacre was just a storyline in Watchmen on HBO. It's like, no. That actually happened 99 years ago, May 31st.
Yeah.
A lot of people, there are people who didn't know, who are just now finding out what Juneteenth is. There are people who are just now finding out about the 4 little girls that died in Alabama in the 60s when the church was bombed. There are people, and I asked my friends, it's like, all of you who are just now opening these books and seeking out these articles and watching the documentaries like the 13th on Netflix, you're watching Selma, like what are your thoughts? And they were like, I'm pissed as hell that I wasn't taught this.
I have to be like totally honest. I don't know what Juneteenth is.
That's the thing. I didn't learn what Juneteenth was until about 2 years ago. Juneteenth was the day, and it was in Texas. It was the day that the last of the slaves were finally freed. And they had been freed 2 years ago. But slave drivers in Texas were still like, if we don't tell them, they won't know. But they were finally forced to free them. So that was when the last slaves in America were finally freed. They were finally told that they were free. So
I see.
And it's just like, that's why you have a lot of Black people who are like, I can't celebrate the 4th of July because we were still in chains when that took place. So a lot of people celebrate Juneteenth. I inadvertently gave myself Juneteenth off because I told my bosses, and I'm so thankful that I have bosses that I do, because I was like, hey, my mental health is suffering. And they both urged me to take time off. So I took off this coming Thursday and Friday and didn't realize that this Friday is Juneteenth. But I know I have a lot of friends that are now, because they are homeschooling due to COVID-19, they are taking the time to educate their children on other things. Friends of yours and mine, Sarah and Deborah Doobie, Sarah messaged me saying that she and Ron sat down and watched When They See Us about the Central Park Five. Mm-hmm. And they were both sick to their stomach. And there are people who don't know about that. There are people who don't know that the person who now holds the highest job in this country called for the death penalty for 5 innocent Black children. That's what they were, children. So it's like,
so Sage here is in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned they don't have the best record for race relations, for sure, because apartheid and all of that, crazy shiz. But they're, I can only assume that South Africa kids aren't going to be taught about American slavery. Like,
right.
It's probably not a thing.
Yeah. I have friends in the UK who, are marching in the protests that are happening over there. And they're like, I think I read an article where they're like, yeah, they're now going to teach British colonialism in the schools, because history is always written by the victors. Yeah. That's why you have, the very, spoon-fed, blacks are fine, racism ended, when the Civil Rights Act was signed into law. It's like, no. It's like, yes, and that's the thing I think that shakes up a lot of people is they really believe because they don't own white hoods and ride horses and burn crosses in people's lawns and say the N-word, they think they're not racist. And it's like, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's systemic. When you realize, like, I had to tell somebody what redlining was.
What is redlining?
Redlining is how, I don't want to say territories, but basically what it is
like gerrymandering?
If you live sort of like that, if you live in a certain neighborhood, you are less likely to get funding for schools, get funding for essential services. Cops are less likely to come to your neighborhood. It's if you live in a certain area that is deemed urban or ghetto, you are less likely to receive a home loan. Mm. So that's why a lot of African-American Black people do not own homes unless they move to a certain neighborhood, because those are set in place. Just I'll take the time to pull up so I don't, because we're trying to educate folks here.
Yeah.
Redlining definition. To refuse a loan or insurance to someone because they live in an area deemed to be a poor financial risk.
It's only considered poor because there are POCs.
Mm-hmm. And the reason it's called redlining is because a lot of times when they would draw maps of these places, they would absolutely use a red pen to mark off those areas. That's why I think there's a graphic of it that I shared on my Instagram story that explained it a little bit better than I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Where you have Kevin and you have Jamal, and they live in the same area, but they're separated by that red line, and they go to two different schools. And that's why Kevin has better opportunities and Jamal does not,
Yeah, I think I only got the opportunities that I did because I mean, Sako, if they don't understand that it's Japanese, it could be considered a gender neutral name. Right. So they see Sako and they don't know if it's male or female.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't know that I'm female until I actually walk into their office.
Right. And then that's a whole nother conversation we have about.
So, like, if someone reads
black sounding names, right? Like my
Jamal,
name,
for instance, like Jamal is less likely to get an interview because
my name it can be kind of racially ambiguous. Like my first name, a lot of people ask me what Taye is short for. It's not short for anything. My first name is just Taye.
Right.
Del Val, a lot of people think it's French. I've had people ask me if my last name is French. When I lived in New York City, moment of levity. When I lived in New York City, I forgot what region it is, but there's like there's a region of Africa where they speak French, and they were New Guinea? Yeah, and they came to my door and they started speaking French to me, and I'm like, they assumed because of my last name that I spoke French.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of, is your last name French? If it was Del Valle before my grandfather changed it, then I could get it. But nobody assumes that last name is Hispanic. So
with the Del part,
with the Del, yeah. But still, so you'd think I wouldn't get French. I would get, are you from Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, something like that. But it's always French. But, I've had those where nobody assumed I was a Black woman until I walked in. And the eyes got big.
Yeah.
And I've had those fights with people where I used to be the person that said, I want to give my children normal. And I don't say that anymore because we've grown and when you know better, you do better.
White names. That is what we mean. Is white names.
When you say normal names, I'm like
normal names, yeah.
So I'm like, no. Like I do kind of like biblical Testament names. Like I like the name Caleb and Levi for some reason. They just
They're
speak
good
to me.
names. Yeah.
But I'm not. Those are just names that I like the sounds of. But to say that, and I've had those fights with people once I woke up a little bit. It's like, if they want their children to have choices, they should choose different names. I'm like, that shouldn't be the way it is. It should be, we shouldn't be discriminating based on a name.
Absolutely.
New York and California just passed laws about passing bans on natural hairstyles. The fact that that has to be made a law should alarm some people.
The Army finally made it a thing where natural hairstyles were accepted.
Yeah. And,
as long as it's off the collar, they no longer ban it. We have a bunch of stuff. Hold on. Doll is here to show support. Hooray.
Hey.
They are also in Argentina, so they are always learning things.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of people who also didn't know what Juneteenth is. Doll only knew because of that epic rap battle, right?
Yeah. Sometimes we have to put our history lessons into songs so that people will understand.
Yeah. I think this was referring to American slavery. Mm-hmm. We touched on it briefly, but only if you take history, which it seems like it's an elective,
mm-hmm.
I guess. It was not an elective in my school. Let's see. Thank you for educating us, Taye. Really appreciate your time and energy and emotional labor you're doing today. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Normal names. As opposed to really common here for folks to have a Black name and a Christian name, i.e. a white name, because white people couldn't be bothered to learn the pronunciation, and that pisses me off so much. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That is also a Chinese thing where they'll have like a Mandarin name and then they'll have like a Ace or mm-hmm. Jim or something like that. And they because they don't want Americans butchering their name.
Right.
Like so, there are 4 letters in my name. It's really hard to butcher. The like I get Soka mm-hmm. because of Avatar, and I get Sako, which is like the watch, which is also a name, but it's not my name.
Right.
So I don't even correct people anymore when they call me Sako. Like it's not even worth the discussion at this point. It's a thing. It happens.
I've gotten Taye countless times. I've gotten Taye. And it was a fabulous gay man who said that. So I'm like, I'm gonna let that one slide because that sounds kind of fabulous. Taye. I've gotten all kinds. What else have I gotten? Somebody added an apostrophe, so it was like A. I'm like, wait a second, wait.
Hold on. Yeah.
It's just Taye, or somebody tries to add like an accent on the E. It's
Taye. Yeah.
So there are memes going around. It's like, dear child with a difficult name, correct them every time. If these people can learn to pronounce Daenerys Targaryen, they can learn to pronounce Taye Del Val. they can learn to pronounce anything else.
I do find it interesting that in Africa, of all places, in South Africa, of all places, like they would have like their African name or their Black name. Mm-hmm. And then they would just say, screw it, and take a Christian name on top of it because, you know, the white speakers don't want to bother trying to pronounce like a Swahili name or trying to pronounce another dialect, you know. They're just like, I don't feel like learning that language. You know.
And that's sad, but
it is sad. It's ableist and it's racist, you know.
It is. It's like learn to
Taye Del Val is also is also an alias that I recall you going by. Slay was totally a thing. Slay was totally a thing.
That actually came from one of my cosplay friends.
Yeah.
It was just like, he just started calling me Slay because when I started posting my makeup selfies, and he just started calling me Taye Del Val instead of Taye. I was like, oh, okay, well,
that's a thing now. Yeah,
like, that's just it. Taye Del Val cosplay and Taye, aka Slay, on YouTube. Like that was just the thing, and it's easier. A lot of people call me on Twitter. That's just what they call me because that's my display name is Slay, or they either call me Slay or Grown Geek Girl. And
Grown Geek Girl, yeah.
So I'm like, but they all know my real name because in my lives I say it. So
right. So we also have. So I am being schooled in Swahili. Swahili is up north in the Kenya, Tanzania, action. So what kind of dialects are in South Africa? I am ignorant of such things.
There's a beautiful South African boy that I follow on all of his platforms. He has a YouTube channel, but he lives in Australia now. His name is Luke Alexander. I shouldn't lust after him because he's like 20, but he's really pretty. and he's been very vocal about everything. So we've actually interacted a lot on social media, and I'm like, I shouldn't find him as pretty as he is because he's a baby, but we're going to move on.
So I have a relative. She's technically the mother of my now deceased half brother. Mm-hmm. So we still talk to her, still keep tabs on her, stuff like that. Friend of my dad's. Basically, she put up this post of a white woman supposedly named Ricky, who had also been killed by Derek, what's his face, the cop who killed George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And I went to Google this woman. She's like a ghost. Like there's no woman by that name. There's no pictures. There's no nothing. Mm. And so I think that Russians probably made a meme to take the conversation away from Black people and make it more about police brutality and less about, Black people being treated like goddamn citizens and not like pets even pets are treated better than Black people sometimes.
Yeah, because you'll have people who are like, I'm okay with racism, but I draw the line at animal abuse,
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. I have a Sesotho name given to me by my former coworkers, which I will wear proudly. Nathabisang, which means happiness.
Oh, I like that.
That's pretty.
I really like that.
I like it. Our indigenous languages are Sepedi, Sesotho, Setswana, Siswati, Chivenda. I'm trying. Jitsonga, Izindabella, Izishosa, and Isizulu. And I hope I pronounced those even close. I hope.
Wow, okay.
So that's a lot of languages. That's a lot of indigenous languages.
And a lot of people assume that Africa is a monolith. It's like, no.
It's really not. Well, that's okay, because people think of Americans and they think of like loud, angry Texans. right?
Oh my God. One of my friends in the UK actually said that. He said he was watching somebody's like a reaction channel, and he was like, they were typically American, loud and obnoxious. I'm like, yeah, then I don't think you would, because he's told me that he's pretty sure that he'd want to be in a relationship if he lived over here. I was like, now I'm not so sure because I'm pretty loud and obnoxious. He's like, no, I never thought that about you.
You were the exception.
And isn't that always the way? Oh my God. You and I have had that conversation offline before. It's like, well, you're not like that. You're one of the good ones.
You're one of the good ones.
I hate to bring him up, but it's so pertinent to the conversation. We're gonna talk about my ex and the times where I've had to ask people and him to not say I'm the whitest Black person that they know. Like before I really accepted who I was as a Black woman, I used to go along with that idiocy because I speak properly, because I don't use a lot of AAVE. I do when I'm being silly, when I'm inebriated, when the inhibitions are down. But yeah, it's like we have that. You kind of have to be that two different people to get the job, to be accepted in certain spaces. But this is who I am. This is how I speak. I grew up on military bases. I didn't grow up around people who that's all they spoke. I didn't grow up in spaces where all I heard was the Black accent, and that's why I spoke like that. My mother would yell at me because she knew, because she had been through it. It's like, you can't speak like that in certain company. So I couldn't speak slang in the house. So because I'm into cosplay, because I'm into anime, because I might sit down and play a video game or two, read a comic book, because I listen to certain country artists, because Sako, you and I went to middle school together, we listened to the same music, you made me mixtapes, because I know who Tori Amos is, because I know, like, I went to a birthday party in New York City, and it was an 80s club and they played Metallica. I was the only person singing, because you may see me walking my dog and I'll be bopping along to electronica, because I don't do things that are typically Black. I was called the whitest Black girl that anybody knows. And with my ex, one of the last times when I was with him, he would say, this guy was the whitest Black dude I knew. And I would say, don't say that. Just because he likes these things, just because he acts a certain way, just because he carries himself a certain way, doesn't mean he's trying to act white. Stop saying that. And then he said it again. That should have been the time to be like, all right, we're going to cut this off. But, and you and I have talked about this, like, can you imagine the lack of support I'd be getting right now? Because I asked this person and anybody on the stream doesn't know, my ex is a white man. And I asked him, we got together right before the 2016 election. And after Trump was elected, I asked him, I'm like, listen, racists are emboldened out in these streets. And I need to know if you're going to be strong enough. And I didn't mean physically strong enough. I mean, like, if you have the mental and emotional fortitude to stand up to somebody and say that I will not tolerate that disrespect towards my family, towards my wife, towards my children, I need to know that you're going to be strong enough to stand up for that. And he got more offended at me asking that because he thought I was challenging his manhood. Like saying that, are you strong enough? Like, are you physically strong enough to throw hands and take somebody down if they call me that? That's not what I meant at all.
But that's probably how he read it.
Exactly.
Right.
And I tried to explain that to him and he still got upset. And then I see his mother arguing with his best friend, saying, it's like, this person in my family was a cop. This person in my family is a cop, but I'm tired of seeing cops. But I was like, I would have no kind of emotional support anywhere in that family had I married into it. And that's another sad thing, is that people have their blinders on, that they cannot see the wrong that is being done because even though it's so close to them, and they don't care because it's not affecting them. Even if it's in their own family. Like, you have white people who are the parents of Black children, whether because their partner is Black or they adopted Black children. Like, you have a responsibility to stand up for your children and teach them that what's happening to them, because we, even as children, we experience Black trauma because we see it, and it needs to be acknowledged and not swept under the rug. Sweeping things under the rug and not talking about things is how we got here. And I'm so fat. A lot of our friends who never spoke up before are speaking up now, and they're taking the time to educate themselves, and they're checking on me, which is amazing. And I can't help but be grateful for it. There's so much work that needs to be done. And I feel like we're not standing alone here.
I think it would have been different had the police not accelerated.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would have been washed away as like just another riot, you know. But because the police reacted irrationally, like, and Sage was absolutely right. Also the, that action. Do I even need to say it? Like, I don't know. Doll says that they are biracial, so happens to have a strong Finnish influence. Some Finns are cool with that, and well, Doll is unusual, right?
Yeah.
So discrimination has always been a part of regular life. Some people are racist without even noticing it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. My college friend Matt, he's half Japanese. We kind of bonded over that a little bit, right? Basically, he found on his work laptop a chat basically saying, like, what's up with that half Jap dude who married a full gook, like trying to act as white as possible. Like, it's like hard to watch. And I'm like really? Like, I don't even. Oh, this. The lady who like tried to. She basically wore blackface like every day and like went to tanning places and stuff like that. She basically pretended to be Black.
Yeah.
So she's like, I was white, and then I converted to being Black. And I was like, no, you did not.
That's not how it works. Isn't there was some story about some woman, I don't remember what European country she was from, but she was like, she started wearing wigs with, different textured hair and got like breasts and butt implants. She was just like, I really want to be a Black woman because I connect with their struggle and everything. It's like, no,
I've seen Instagrammers doing the blackface thing.
The blackfishing, yeah.
Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, because you have a lot of white beauty influencers who are like, oh, I'll get more work if I'm racially ambiguous. So let me go and get a foundation that's 4 or 5 shades darker than my actual skin tone. And I'll because I'm exotic, I'll get more work. I'll be able to work with more brands and things of that nature. It's sad to say, everybody want to be Black until it's time to be Black. Like, I can't wash this off.
I'm not, but I feel that way about transvestites. Like, they want to be female until they don't want to be female anymore. Mm-hmm. And and then they can just go back to being a dude, right? So
right. You can go home and not have to deal with, and then walk out your door the next day as you were born and not have to deal with all of that.
Right.
I can wash off the makeup that I'm wearing right now, but underneath that, this is not going away.
Yeah.
With no amount, like I can try to laser it away. And there are people who have, tried to lighten their melanin through skin creams and all of that because they believe if they're lighter, life will be easier. But
yeah.
And that's sad because that's what's taught. the closer to whiteness that you get.
I saw a video some years ago where they were taking Black children, little girls mostly, and sitting them in a room and having two pictures of one of a beautiful Black woman and one of a beautiful white woman, and they say, which person has a better personality? Like, which one is more beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
And she always pointed to the white woman.
Yeah.
And the parent is in the mirror room, basically like, where did they get that? Like, that's not from me. And I'm like, it might have been subtle, but there is they got it somewhere.
Yeah.
And like the most subtle thing that you can possibly do can be enormous for them.
Yeah. Like there's a video I think I saw, I want to say no more than a year ago, of a little white girl getting a little Black baby doll for Christmas, and
I wanted a white one.
She screamed bloody murder and threw this thing across the room, and she's like, it's ugly, and it's like, what?
Where did you get this that it's ugly?
Yeah, like bringing it back to like the beauty space, like there are artists who do drastic things just with color and powder. Like they'll contour their nose. My favorite beauty influencer, Jackie Aina, she actually posts on Twitter, she was like, if you don't contour your nose, post your looks. And somebody actually wrote, it's like, oh, I forgot to contour my nose. It was a Black beauty boy. And he was like, oh, auntie, because we all call her Auntie Jackie. She's like, I forgot to contour my nose. And she's like, baby, you don't have to. And that's where she started from. She was like, if you're a Black artist and you don't contour your nose, I want to see your pictures. We don't have to contour our nose to make them slimmer and more presentable, Yeah. And there's so many conversations where it's like you have Angelina Jolie, who's praised for the size of her lips, but me growing up got told that my lips were entered the room 5 minutes before I did. It's just, everybody wanted to have a big butt as soon as it was cool to have a big butt. But again, those features were chastised and criticized when they're on Black women. So it's like, our beauty is beautiful when it's not from us, when it's not on us. And I find that very interesting. I find that very interesting when, again, going back to hairstyles. Yes, I'm wearing a wig right now, but that's because I like playing with different colors. And if I did what wigs allow me to do, I'd be bald. But, there's not been a relaxer in my hair for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've posted pictures on my social media of me with my natural hair out, and people love those pictures. I love my natural hair. But again, I love playing with cuts, colors, styles, lengths, on all those types of things. But the fact that somebody asked me at my old job if the reason I wore wigs was because I was afraid to lose my job, the fact that there are men in my own community, men who look like me, who say that me wearing wigs looks ghetto, it's like, and then whenever you bring up cultural appropriation, and you and I have had that conversation where it's like, no, the reason that this is a problem is because it's fashionable when someone who is non-Black does it. But if we do it, we're unprofessional, we're filthy, we're unkempt, we don't care about our looks. It's no. These are protective styles. Like, oh, there was a article I shared it a long time ago, and then I shared it again because there are people who didn't realize the Taigan laws in the South, where Black women were forced to cover their hair during Reconstruction. Whoa. Because our hairstyles and our braiding had become so elaborate that white women were afraid, because slave masters used to rape their slaves. White women were so afraid that because our hair was so beautiful with the way we styled it, that we would start drawing the attention of white men. They were like, hey, can you pass a law that requires Black women to wear head coverings when they're out in public? And they did. But we made it fashion. So after a few years, they were like, yeah, we don't need to do this anymore. But that was a law that was on the books. that if Black women went out in public, they had to have their hair covered. Because how dare we draw the eyes of white men to us?
I have my best friend, who isn't Taye, of course. My best friend is a Hispanic lady, and she, she's half Native American, basically, and half Catalan. And for instance, we worked together as professional trainers, technical trainers. And we were wearing the same thing. We were wearing women's suits. And she was taken aside and told that she was dressed inappropriately because she's very hourglass shaped, right? So, she's got a rib cage, and then she's got like a 20-inch waist, if that, and then she's got like 48-inch hips.
Right.
Right. So the boss was Sudanese, right? Basically like pulls her aside and says, "You need to go home and change." And she's like, "What do I even change into? Like, I'm wearing a pencil skirt that covers my knees and a shirt, like a dress shirt. Like what?" She wasn't being vulgar in any way. Like,
right.
It's corporate America. Like I thought she was dressed appropriately. The problem is that it wasn't her attire that he had a problem with. It was her body that he had a problem with.
Yeah.
Right? And I see that a lot with Black women, like a lot with Black
especially
women.
Like teachers.
Especially teachers.
Like Black women who are elementary and kindergarten teachers who will wear the same things as their white counterparts, but because our bodies tend to be curvier, the clothes will fit different. It's like, if it's like, oh, well, she should know not to wear a form-fitting dress. It's like the dress is probably loose on somebody that doesn't have boobs. Like, it's we cannot control that. Like, do you want me to wear, sackcloth? I just can't.
Right. Exactly.
I think I've only run into that issue once.
Oh yeah?
Where I was told my shirt was inappropriate, and it was a button up, but because
it had like the wrinkle.
Yeah. So
So what do you even do in a situation?
I was like, do you want me to go? And this was in New York. I'm like, do you want me to go all the way back to Queens? Because I worked in Manhattan, right next to Radio City. I'm like, do you really want me to go all the way? That'd be 2 hours out of my day.
Yeah.
Would have
at least that's just in travel. That's just in travel.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry that, I'm on my period right now and my boobs are a little bit more voluptuous. So it's making the shirt do things. I can't do anything
about this.
And it was the weird thing was it was a casual. This was before we switched over to business casual. Like, it was a casual workplace. So the fact that I was wearing a button-up shirt and wasn't an executive made people kind of go, But because it was so, I have boobs. Like, I can't. But it's those little things, those little microaggressions that people don't realize are happening.
Yeah.
It's like you have that video. I don't know if I shared it, but there's a video of white employees all gathered around a Black woman who has a beautiful afro, and they're all like petting it and touching it and running their fingers through it. And you could tell she just wants to scream, but it's one of those, I need this job. I need a paycheck. So I just have to sit here and take it. Otherwise, I'm going to be seen as the angry Black woman and quite possibly either get disciplined or lose my job. And I can't afford that. So let me just sit here and be quiet while you all pet me like I'm a puppy at a petting zoo. Like, and if we speak up, that's another problem we face is we're seen, especially we Black women, we're seen as angry and aggressive just for saying, I don't like this.
when I was on Match, I was all inclusive in my search for a significant other, and I saw a theme with Black men of wanting a good Christian girl. I think what they meant was they wanted someone subservient. They wanted someone who wasn't opinionated, right? It's also why like a lot of Asian men tend not to go with Black women, because they want subservience. They want. I have to say that stating that I was half Japanese, like, they were expecting a very different personality.
Exactly.
And when you actually happen to be outgoing and you happen to be opinionated and all of those things, sometimes people don't want to date that. Like, I think it's fetishizing, the fetishization of Asian women, and I mean, it happens to Black women too, absolutely. Where, especially if it's like interracial, like where it's like a dude is like trying to collect or something, like where they just want a
like that to check off that box. Like, I can say I've been with a Black woman. Yeah,
exactly.
Thankfully, thankfully I haven't had I haven't had that problem. But
whoa. So Sage wore a headscarf to work a little while ago, and one of the coworkers called them a Black cleaner name to try and shame them for it.
Wow.
That a headscarf basically meant that you were a cleaner.
And that's one of the reasons, aside from sometimes I don't want to mess with my hair and I don't want to put a wig on, one of the reasons I wear headscarves is I tend to operate now from a place of my existence is resistance. Like, a lot of people don't want me in certain spaces. A lot of people see head wraps and they're like, what? They don't see it as fashion. They think that that's something, because Black women wear bonnets going to bed, because we have to protect our hair, because cotton dries out our hair and we're trying to get it to grow. But a lot of people see that is if you wear headscarf, you're below, you're lower. It's not. It's fashion. It can be high art. It's the fact that when it's attributed to us, it's ghetto. I had a Black man tell me that me wearing wigs made me look ghetto. And I'm like, this is the same, going back to dudes that want subservience. This is the same Black dude who, when I said I had standards for what I wanted in a partner, and I made a YouTube video about it where it's like my mandatory, I assumed he meant, it's like, he was like, this is why you women are singles, because you guys have lists, and if a guy doesn't measure up to it, it's like, it's not like I'm saying I only want a guy that drives a Benz and makes 6 figures a year. I'm saying I want somebody that's compassionate, someone who's empathetic, somebody who is willing to remain teachable. I want somebody who would rather shoot himself in the knee than cheat on me, because I know how painful being cheated on is. I want somebody who doesn't have to be exactly like me, but is not going to shame me for being almost 40 years old and still wanting to go to comic book conventions. If I put on my Storm outfit and go to San Diego Comic-Con, I want somebody who's either going to be right there with me or is going to be like, babe, you have a good time. I don't want somebody who's going to shame me for my hobbies, things like that. And he was just like, oh no, but you just need to do this. And I'm like, so because I have standards for myself, I'm not okay. And I blocked him on everything. But
understandably, goddamn.
Yeah, and I've had guys who have told me of different ethnic and racial backgrounds tell me that they are afraid they'd get written out of the will for dating me, for bringing me home. That their family has already had one culture shock because his sister married an Indian man. And he's like, so what would it look like if I brought home a Black girl? He ended up being gay, so I'm like, you would have shocked your family anyway. So thanks for that. I've had guys tell me that I've had guys straight up tell me when I expressed my interest in them that they stick to their own race. I've had guys tell me no matter how much I loved you, I couldn't stand up to my family. And I'm like, okay. And that wasn't even for just being Black. That was for being Buddhist. They were like, my family won't allow me to marry somebody that's not Christian, or they would, but they would be constantly trying to convert you. And I don't want to cause a rift between. I'm like, so you're not strong enough to stand up to your parent? Really? You're a 40-year-old man. Okay. But I've had a guy tell me that because he didn't grow up around a lot of Black people and he solely based his opinion on stereotypes. And he said that he was afraid that I would emasculate him.
I have been told that too.
They're afraid of being emasculated, so that's why they don't date Black women. I'm like,
or that like we broke up or whatever because I have a kind of personality that emasculated him. And it's not that I said anything to, like bash his manhood or anything like that. If anything, I can be an ego boost. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
it's one of the things that makes me so glad that the trope of the strong Black woman in media is starting to, that whole discussion around that is starting to take place. Because I've had friends when I've come, not in this instance, but like say after mom passed and after the breakup, I've had friends when I've come to them in pain, say it's like, oh, but you're so strong. You know, you're going to get, that's like, okay, I know I'm going to get over this, but in the moment right now, I'm hurt. Mm-hmm. Like if you go to my Instagram stories right now, like I went down a rabbit hole before I went to bed last night, because I just felt so bad. It was like, yeah, it might seem a little self-serving, but I hate the fact that I'm single while the world is burning down. Like I want somebody to hold me and be like, yeah. It's like, I've got you. And it's like, people think that Black women don't need that. People think that, because we're portrayed as carrying the world on our backs and still, persevering. It's like, no, we're vulnerable. We hurt, we cry. We want to be held. We want to be loved. We want to be cared for. We just tend to keep being put in situations where we have to keep moving.
I think that's also like a woman thing. Mm-hmm. Not to take the severity of the situation away from Black women, because it is definitely part of the racism is that Black women are particularly resilient and particularly opinionated, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So I think the mental load is just kind of like expected of us. Mm-hmm. Most especially on Black women, in that Black women specifically are pretty much expected to be the breadwinners and also be the mom and also be this, that, and the other thing, and be able to handle it all, and also like make that ridiculous joke about, where they have 2 kids and a husband and they're like, oh, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Right. That ridiculous fucking.
It's like we're expected to be, the spiritual advisor, the mother, in some instances, we're expected to be both mother and father. Mm-hmm. There was I think I don't know if I shared it or not, but there was something where it's like, white privilege and motherhood. Like if I'm holding a baby, nobody's going to ask me who the father is or how many, how many I've had, or,
that's really messed up.
Yeah. It's, if I'm in an interracial relationship, if I'm holding a baby, it's going to be like, am I the nanny? white women don't have to deal with that. Actually, no, it happened in Prince William County where a white man who had, this happened, I want to say maybe about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember reading about it. This happened in Prince William County at the Walmart behind Potomac Mills. There was a white dude who had 3 little black girls with him, and they were his daughters. The mother was a black mother, and people were they're like, he must have kidnapped them, because why does a white man have 3 little girls? And they called the people at the store, called the police, and the police went to that man's home, and they were like, "Where's your mom?" And the mom came out, and it was a black woman, and they were like, "Okay, listen, we're sorry. People were worried. We just had to look into it."
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Strange how black women are vocal and opinionated, but white women aren't. Like, I'm sorry, what color are all these Karens? So here's the thing: the Karens are like, that's a derogatory term. And I'm like, no, really? It ain't. No, it ain't.
Right.
It is, they're like trying to take away women's power by calling them Karen, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, so it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a Karen.
Right.
But this is like the mindset that feminism is toxic and like all of that jazz, right? So
I was told by Apple Care, like, if I did that, I'd be taken away and beaten by the police. Like, let's be real here. If I walked into an Apple store and yelled and carried on like that,
mm-hmm.
the police would be called. And I would probably be a hashtag. Let's keep it a buck. But I mean, it's so clear to people. You had people protesting the stay-at-home orders, people taking rocket launchers to Subway. But there were no cops called. You had white protesters getting right up in cops' faces, and they're just standing there. But
I saw a video of a crowd of BLM people protesting to a line of cops. They're all saying, "Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot." And the cops move forward during this chanting. Like they listen to it for a minute and then they move forward. So mm-hmm. It's not that they didn't hear them or anything. And then pulled down the face mask, pepper sprayed,
mm-hmm.
grabbed the black man into the middle of the street and started beating him.
Yeah.
And the person filming is like, "What the fuck?" And yeah, I'm of a similar mind. What the fuck?
It's like, I would love to know what we did other than ask for equal opportunity, equal pay, equal rights, just the right to live as humans. What did we do to be seen as a threat? What did we do to there's nothing we as a people have done to garner all this hate.
Right.
Nothing. All we've done is exist. And we didn't ask to be here. We were brought here as free labor because that's the backbone of capitalism. It's like, you couldn't make money if you were paying workers. So let's go grab these people from this other land who we see as inferior and make them do our jobs for us. That's literally all we did. We were stolen from our homes.
Yep.
And I don't want to hear that, blacks sold their own. That's it's irrelevant.
That is not part of the conversation right now.
So it's like we literally did nothing but exist. And people expect us to be docile and just take it. And it's just like, and the fact that now we're rising up, and that's what it is. And the rest of the world, these aren't being seen as riots, they're being seen as uprisings. And somebody on Twitter made a good point. It's like, now that the cops are no longer intervening, you're not seeing as much coverage of the protests, because there are protests that are going on. There's a protest that was going on in LA yesterday. There's a protest that's going on in the AV to demand they look into these lynchings
mm-hmm.
today and tomorrow. But because they're peaceful, there's not tear gas, there's not property damage, the media is not covering it. It's like, no, we haven't stopped. People are protesting out in these streets every single day.
They haven't stopped here.
So it's like, it's not going away. And I'm gonna say it. I posted about it this morning. I'm angry at the people who are saying that I just want things to go back to normal. It's like, I'm sorry, you're
redefining normal.
Yeah.
Between the pandemic,
mm-hmm.
right? It's changing work culture. It's changing culture, like social culture in general. And then on top of it, we're redefining, like, if we're going to redefine normal, why don't we also like throw in human rights for humans?
Yes. Yes. Because that's what's needed. Everybody's like, we want peace. Okay, then shit has to change. Point blank, period.
I saw a video of a woman basically explaining why they were burning in their own neighborhoods. And right.
The one on John Oliver's thing?
On John Oliver's thing, yeah.
Last week tonight.
Yeah. So hold on. Yeah, that broke my heart. Yeah. Fuck your Hall of Fame. Absolutely.
Because that's exactly what she said. She's like, the social contract had been broken.
The social contract had been broken. Yeah. The media is so messed up and been so for so long. So the last I heard with the media was when they were getting attacked during the riots. Right. I think they stopped covering the riots or the protests because they were tired of getting shot at.
Yeah.
Right. And they made some kind of deal with the cops where they don't talk about police brutality as long as they, don't show up to the protests. I mean, it's complete, conjecture at this point, but.
Right. But it's like, no, we're still mad. We're still marching. I'm doing what I can. Like, I decided to finally, I'm mad that I didn't do it sooner, but like I just started contributing, making a monthly donation to Black Lives Matter. Also, Black Visions Collective, which is a Black LGBTQ led thing, because all Black lives matter. Like, me, I'm an ally to the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this fight too. Like, I have more gay friends speaking up than ever before. And they're out there marching with me, shutting down anybody who tries to all lives matter everything. And it's just like, I can't sit here and knowing that I have gay Black friends, gay Black lesbian friends, Black trans friends, and say, well, you know what? No. I want so badly to dismantle that, because a lot of Black people were had Christianity beaten into them by their slave masters, and they hold on to this archaic belief about, I was like, y'all got to let this, in our own community, we got to let go of the homophobia and the transphobia. We really do. We really do. We really have to look out for one another. It's like Black men have to look after Black women. Black women been looking after Black men. We have to look out for our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters too. They matter too. They are part of our story. They have always been. They have a right to life just as much as we do. And y'all got to stop with that. You have to. we have learning to do within our own community. You got to stop. I have Black uncles who are gay who have come to bat for me over my father when he was acting ridiculous. I've had, and that's the reason I go for the community so hard, is because there have been gay and lesbian people who have saved my life several times.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not let them be erased. And I shared about, we still have the border crisis with kids in cages. I'm like, we're going for them next. Like, this is not, right now it's focused on us, but the tide is changing. Where a lot of people are waking up. We have to do better for everybody if we want to move forward. And
I think there's a lot. I think Sage was right in saying that it's government sanctioned and all of that jazz, right?
Yeah.
So it is a systemic problem. Traffic stops. Fucking traffic stops.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's never been about all. It's about not Black.
Yeah.
Right. I've been seeing more and more posts about Black trans women or Black trans in general being murdered, being decapitated, being I mean brutal murders.
Yeah.
And left to be found. Like it's not even like burying them in their backyard like a fucking serial killer. Like leaving the bodies in public.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's how you know it's being done intentionally. It's like they're being made examples of. And it's like, how much hate do you have to have for somebody who is just living their truth, who is just living their life? It has nothing to do with you. And that's across the board. Not to take the focus away from Black trans people, because Black trans lives matter, but it's like, I don't understand how there is so much hate and fear around people and identities that have nothing to do with you. They are not stopping you from living your life in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
So why the hate? And like I said, it's taught. It's taught. You're afraid of, and that's what it is with a lot of Black trans women. People are like, oh, you're lying because you're not a woman. Sorry, trans women are women.
Trans women are women.
They're not tricking anybody.
Nope.
They're not out here to try to play the gotcha on anybody. They're just living their lives. You don't have to be ashamed if you're attracted to a trans woman. There is a trans man that you and I went to high school with who is fine as hell. Do I question myself because I am attracted to him? Not at all. Am I about to go kill somebody because I'm confused about how no, it's not worth it. Let people live. Leave people alone. People that have no bearing on your life. I don't understand it. I will never understand it because that's not how I was raised. When my mother was here, I had to check her. You heard me. There were times where I had to check her on her prejudices.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, that's not how you raised me.
Yeah.
So
Old wheels.
It's just like, I leave people alone.
Yeah.
How other people live, have what other people do. People deserve basic kindness. People deserve to be able to go to the hospital and know they're going to be seen and treated equally. They're not going to be discriminated against because of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their race, because we can have those conversations about how Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth because people in the medical field are taught that we feel pain differently. It's like, I saw a beautiful tweet about it. It's like, do not go into the medical field if you cannot treat everybody. If you're going to hold bias based on somebody's gender expression, sexual orientation, or skin color, that's not the field for you.
Yeah.
Because you take an oath, and that's it, you take an oath to heal. And that's why you have the slides of Grey's Anatomy where, you had to have a Black woman and a gay man save a Nazi's life, because that's what they're trained to do. They can't just be like, nope, he hates my people, I'm gonna walk out here. We can't do that, because that's not the job that you swore to do.
Yep.
That's breaking the oath that you took. You're causing harm. Yep. And for biases that are archaic from by people that refuse to be educated. These are human beings. These are fellow human beings, and they deserve the right to live. They deserve the right to live their best lives. They deserve to breathe and work and eat and love as much as anybody else. It's disgusting to me that people are so threatened. It's like that great graphic. It's like equal rights for you doesn't mean for other people doesn't mean less rights for you. It's not pie.
The woman who talked about the social contract being broken, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got distracted. She said that oh no. Sorry, I'm clicking things. I had this argument with a doctor who wouldn't prescribe me birth control because she was pro-life. Yeah. That turns into like a woman thing all over again, right? So I'm trying to remember what we were just talking about. Goddamn. Yeah, I can't remember. But it is also 3:23. We can wrap this up at 3:30. How does that sound?
Sure. Because I know you've got stuff to do.
I got my Sunday. Right. So
like, if our roommates here, we might just screw around and play some Mario Party, take our minds off everything,
That is a good idea. Especially considering we've been at this for like an hour and a half, and it's taxing to. Yeah. I'm glad you got to get some things off your chest, and educate us white people.
But thank you for being open to listening. Like there are so many people who are just sitting here and go la 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 la, and who are just like no, because they're white knuckling it. They just want to hang on to the status quo, and I'm like,
it really bothered me when Obama took office and people were saying racism is over, and I was like, no.
I forgot who said it, but somebody said that a lot of what's going on is in response to that.
I have heard that as well, and
they hated the fact that he wrote to the highest office in the land.
It's swinging the exact opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So we go from a country of like welcoming African American people in positions of authority, and to like Black people aren't people,
right?
Like almost overnight,
right?
Like the racists just decided to like keep their mouths shut.
It's like you have people wanting to hold on to the Confederate statues. It's like you realize that a lot of those were erected around the civil rights movement to remind us of what our place was.
I love that Christopher Columbus is going down too.
The fact that in Boston, you and I have had conversations
of all places
because of Chris Evans, and because I used to date somebody that lives in Boston. The fact that there is red paint on that statue to represent the blood on his hands in Boston, I'm like, wow. And the fact that nobody really knew until I think it was, what was it? Adam Ruins Everything. Mm-hmm. Where it was like the parody of the Magic School Bus, where it's like, no, he actually raped and pillaged and caused disease and destruction. Yeah. It wasn't just, oh, we're going searching for spices and oh, hello, first Thanksgiving. It's like, no, he eradicated entire populations.
Yeah.
And I would be irate if I still lived in New York, because Andrew Cuomo is just like, no, that statue is important to Italian Americans. I'm like, no. If you watch that segment, it was like they cling to Columbus because it's like, we don't have any heroes.
We don't have any heroes. They're all monsters.
Sorry about it. Like,
Hey, drink your own medicine, man.
It's like, celebrate your great grandfather. Like, I can't. Like, I have my favorite boss, Steve, my personal Captain America. He doesn't care. He's just like, no.
You don't get to decide to knock down the statues. That's vandalism. I disagree.
I highly disagree with that. I'm sorry.
I politely disagree. We as military could go to, if we are toppling like Saddam Hussein and stuff like that, like
if we can go to other countries,
monsters,
the absolute hell out of them.
Richmond, for instance, is chock full of Confederate statues, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just they're pretty much all gone now.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. They will put something else in its place, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like if you want to learn, like we need these.
We're not going to put in a chit. We're not going to put in a chit to have it removed, right?
No. Like we have a whole museum in DC dedicated to the Holocaust, okay? Like there are museums that exist. There are books that are written. We don't need these statues to remind us of history. Yeah. Sorry about it. Especially statues that were put up during the civil rights movement to keep us in our place. They're symbols of intimidation. Sorry about it. They got to go. If we can sanction if somebody can make a call and say, go bomb the hell out of this country, bomb them back to the Stone Age without second thought, plant some trees so we can save the ozone, you know.
So here's the thing about it being criminal is that it was never theirs, right? So it's not criminal for people to revolt. It's not for people to gather and topple their government. In fact, like it's more appropriate now than ever, mm-hmm. right, to topple their government.
It's in the Constitution. We are allowed to rise up against the government if it becomes tyrannical. We tried to do it peacefully.
And some of us are not free to leave, just gonna say. Stop senseless killing of people just for existing while Black, then yes, I do. Yeah.
And no, I shouldn't have to go anywhere. When I didn't even ask to be here in the first place. Want me to go somewhere? Buy me a ticket.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like seriously, that's my response when somebody tells me to get out of the country. It's like, then buy me a ticket. Pay for my passport and buy me my ticket.
So it's not about hurt feelings, right?
It goes much deeper.
And no, we can't put in a chit to have the statues removed. That is not.
It's not how it happens.
That's not how it happens. Like we could go into the voting rights of
and we could
people too.
Yeah, we could talk about voter suppression for days. It just happened in Georgia.
However, we're wrapping up.
We're gonna have a good time.
And we're here for, you know.
Yeah, we're here for education. I'm not here to fight with anybody because the people who are determined to misunderstand the people who are determined to not listen, the people who are determined to hang on to the status quo won't be moved. And the thing is, if it's not us, our children get it. Our children, it's the children, it's the millennials, it's Gen X, they're coming for this shit, okay?
Yeah.
We have lit the fire, they will carry the torch until the end. we're out here fighting so that our babies don't have to. But if they have to, they will. And I'm seeing that. Yep. And that's one of the things that gives me hope.
Black lives still matter.
Today, tomorrow, forever.
Forever. All Black lives matter.
All Black lives matter. So thank you for talking to me. This was, aside from being educational for everyone, this was extremely therapeutic.
I am so glad. This has been Sako Tumi, also known as Cass Voit, presenting Taye Del Val, talking about Black Lives Matter and the struggles that Black females face every day in America. Totally a thing. A case in point with our commenter here. This is just an ordinary Sunday. This is
exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.
Take care, guys.